Hi students, today we are going to discuss about proteins which comes in the chapter macronutrients. So what are proteins? These are biomolecules or macromolecules. They are also called as macronutrients because they are required in large amounts in the body and they are abundantly present in both the plants as well as in the animals. They are polymers of amino acids, that is, they form a chain of amino acids wherein the amino acids are bonded by peptide bonds. And a chain of more than 100 amino acid residues is generally called as a polypeptide chain or a protein. And the chain with less than 100 amino acid residues are generally called as a peptide. We all know that sources include egg, meat, fish, poultry, organic meat like liver, kidney, that is the liver, kidney of the the sheep, goat that we eat, also is rich in proteins. Then pulses, oil seeds, nuts, cereals and tubers are fair source of proteins. Coming on to amino acids, we know that these are monomers of proteins or the building blocks of proteins, and they are called so because they include both amino group as well as the carboxylic acid groups. And we know that there are 20 amino acids in nature, out of which about 10 of them are essential amino acids and the other 10 are non-essential amino acids. They are grouped so based on their synthesis in the body. So essential amino acids are so called because they are not synthesized in the body and they are very essential for the growth and development. And non-essential amino acids are synthesized in the body and therefore need not be taken in the diet. It is not that they are not important for the growth and development, they are important, but they are called non-essential because they are not required in the diet. They are synthesized within the body of the organism. Semi-essential amino acids are those which are again non-essential amino acids, but they are synthesized in inadequate amounts. So they are not synthesized in adequate amounts. Therefore, they have to be included in the diet. So this table would show us the examples of essential, semi-essential and non-essential amino acids. Complete and incomplete proteins. The nutritive value of protein is said to be high only when the protein contains all of the essential amino acids in them, and not only that, the composition of amino acids, the nature or the kind of amino acids that are involved in such proteins should be matching the protein requirement of the body. Such proteins are called as such dietary proteins are called complete proteins. And incomplete proteins are those which lack one or which completely lack the essential amino acids, and they do not have a proper composition of these amino acids which would match the protein requirement of the body. So complete proteins contain all essential amino acids, and their examples include protein of egg, casein of milk. Then we have this, please make a note, it is incomplete. I missed out IN. Please make a note, it is incomplete proteins. So proteins which completely lack all the essential amino acids in them. Examples include proteins like gelatin and zein. Partially complete proteins are proteins which lack one or two or three such essential amino acids. Example, wheat protein and cereal proteins. So this category, that is complete, incomplete and partially complete proteins, are based on the essential amino acids. What do you mean by mutual supplementation of proteins? See, when protein intake is less in the diet, what happens? So the deficiency would also cause a deficiency of essential amino acids, thereby it affects the nitrogen balance in the body. So the tissue proteins should now undergo degradation, or they have to catabolize or break down to supply these missing amino acids. So this results in increased loss of nitrogen in the urine. On the other hand, if protein containing the missing amino acid is added to the diet, then the nitrogen balance or the nitrogen equilibrium can be established, and this capacity of one protein to make good for the deficiency of another protein is what is called as mutual supplementation of protein. So it is just like a sharing, like you come to the rescue of the other and the other comes to the rescue of you when you are in need of help. So same way, when dietary protein intake is low, what happens is the body would not get sufficient amino acid in the body to do its functions. So the tissue proteins have to be degraded to supply these amino acids, and this in turn causes loss of nitrogen in the urine. Therefore, proteins have to be supplemented in the diet. For example, generally cereals and pulses have the mutual supplementary effect. Let us see how is it. Cereals lack lysine and threonine amino acids but are rich in tryptophan, whereas pulses are rich in lysine and threonine but lack tryptophan. So when these two are included in the diet, one protein fulfills the deficiency of the other, and that's how the nutritive value of the protein on the whole is increased. Soya bean proteins are considered to be best, and they have all essential amino acids in them and equating to be as good as animal proteins or proteins of animal origin. Now, this topic, protein efficiency ratio, it is one method to evaluate the biological value of proteins. Now, what is the meaning of biological value? So, biological value reflects the protein's effectiveness in supporting growth and development or maintenance of the tissue. So, biological value, in other words, means how good the protein is. So, in order to evaluate whether you are taking a good protein or not, there are certain methods, and one such method is protein efficiency ratio. So, this depends on the quantity and the quantity of the protein, the amount and the quality both. Quantity is the amount of protein that is taken, and the quality, please again I have missed out this word here, quality. Quality means amino acid composition in that protein. What are the different amino acids present in the protein? So please make a note. Quantity and quality of the protein is very important to decide whether the protein is of good nutritive value or not. And it also depends on the digestibility, how well the protein that is eaten is digested, and the efficient absorption of these constituent amino acids. It also depends how well the amino acids which are obtained after degradation or digestion of the proteins, how well they are absorbed into the small intestine and then into the blood to the tissues. So the value, the biological value is expressed against a standard high quality protein like O-albumin. So okay, one such method as we were discussing is the protein efficiency ratio, which actually goes by the increase in the weight to the weight of the total protein that is consumed. So in this method, weaning rats, that is baby rats, were fed on a ration containing protein for a certain period of time, say for 1 month, and their weight was monitored. An increase in the weight was observed. Say a ration containing 15% of protein was given to these weaning rats. Weaning means which are feeding milk from their mother. Okay, so for 1 month, these weaning rats were fed with a diet having 15% of the proteins in it, and they showed an increase of 54 grams, and the total food that they consumed was 240 grams. So the total protein content was given by protein efficiency ratio, which is, I will just enlarge it or zoom it. So protein efficiency ratio is given by weight increase. This is the weight of the rat, increase in the weight of the rat divided by the weight of the protein that was present in the diet. So so we all know that the increase was about 54 grams. So before 1 month, you have to note down the weight of the rat, and after feeding the ration containing 15% of protein, what was the increase? So when you take the weight and then you subtract, you get the rise in the weight. So that rise in weight has to be taken here, weight increase. So that is 54, and the food contains 15%. So for 100 gram, 15 grams is proteins. Total food that was given was 240 grams. So for 240, it comes up to 36 gram. So the rats would have consumed 36 grams of protein in 1 month, and they would have gained a weight increase of, I'm not talking the weight increase would be 54. So it comes to around 1.8. And it is noted that, as we have already discussed here, when the weight, the biological value was always compared with a standard high quality protein. So the value was like, if this PER, protein efficiency ratio, is less than 1.5, then it's not a good protein. But in our case here it is 1.8, so the rats were fed with good protein, and that's why they showed an increase in their weight and not a decrease in their weight. So protein efficiency ratio is a method of finding out the quality of the protein that is taken in the diet. Nitrogen balance. So what do you mean by nitrogen balance? It's the difference in the nitrogen intake and nitrogen output, wherein both these terms are expressed in grams of nitrogen per day. Nitrogen intake means the nitrogen that is taken in the diet, that is the protein taken in the diet, and nitrogen output is the nitrogen lost in excretion, like nitrogen lost in urine, fecal matter, or it could be sweat, menstrual fluid, or vomiting, lactation, loss of hair. These are all the routes wherein protein would be lost. But here protein is spoken in terms of nitrogen. So when nitrogen intake equals nitrogen output, the body is said to be in nitrogen balance or equilibrium, and is said to be a safer thing, and generally a normal person would be in nitrogen equilibrium. If the nitrogen intake exceeds nitrogen output, then the body is said to be in positive nitrogen balance, and this is again a healthy sign, because it generally happens during the secondary growth and pregnancy, wherein new tissues have to be synthesized. And on the other hand, when nitrogen output exceeds nitrogen input, then the body goes into a negative nitrogen balance, and it's not good. And this generally happens in undernutrition or injuries, burns, starvation, wherein tissues, proteins would have been lost, and when the person's overall food intake is low. Now let us move on to another term called fortification. What do you mean by fortification? It is food enrichment. So this I've been telling in a nutshell. I would tell that you need to add certain nutrients into a main nutrient, so that the quality of the food is enhanced, and also you will be providing the deficient nutrient to those people in a particular region. So this could be of various types, like mass fortification, universal fortification, and targeted fortification. Mass fortification is wherein micronutrients are added. Generally, remember, you don't go and add carbohydrates to oil or oil to carbohydrates. Only minor nutrients are added to a macronutrient. That is what is called fortification. So here, when micronutrients are added to food consumed by a mass population, wherein the population has a staple diet of cereals and other condiments, so when they lack particular micronutrients, they are added. This is called mass fortification. Universal fortification is the micronutrients can be added to any type of food that is consumed. Here it is when the micronutrients are added to staple diet, but here it could be for any food stuff. For example, iodization of salt. Targeted fortification is adding of nutrient only for a targeted population, like say for example the milk which is provided in the school food program for government children, fine, or poor children who generally attend the government schools. Okay, major examples of fortification you can go through. Iodized salt is added. So to the salt we add iodine to make up the deficiency of iodine. See, this is fortification and the biomedical importance of fortification. Therefore, these points are very important. Folic acid is again very important, and it could be added to bread, pasta, rice, and other cereals. Similarly, fluoride is added to water or juice or other drinks. Niacin is vitamin B5, or sometimes it is referred to as B3 also, added to bread, peanuts, and vitamin D is also added to Generally it is added to breakfast cereals. Grains are also fortified with vitamin A, iron and folic acid. So these are some of the examples you can go through. Coming on to the last topic, protein calorie malnutrition. Deficiency due to protein and calorie together is called as protein calorie malnutrition or PCM, or protein energy malnutrition, PEM. So we have two diseases that are caused because of this protein calorie malnutrition. I'll just brief it out so that when the PPT is shown, you can go through the points. Okay, so there are two diseases. One is Kwashiorkor and marasmus. So Kwashiorkor is generally extreme protein malnutrition. Malnutrition is a word which means to say complete lack of that particular nutrient. So protein malnutrition means complete lack of protein in the diet. Marasmus is a result of the lack of both protein as well as calorie. So Kwashiorkor was the term which was given by Dr. Cicely Williams, and it in Canadian language it means evil spirit, wherein it infects the first child when the second is born, if there is no much gap between the first and the second child. So obviously when there is no gap, the second child has to be fed with breast milk, and the first child is devoided or it is deprived of the milk, and it has to invariably, or there is no other choice that it has to rely on watery cereal based foods. So there is nothing but making the child deficient of proteins, because there would be lot of proteins, good complete proteins in the breast milk of the mother. So there are certain biochemical changes and symptoms regarding Kwashiorkor. So wherein you can see the serum content goes low, then enzymes in the serum, digestive juices, they get reduced, lipid metabolism is affected, carbohydrate metabolism is also affected, nitrogen imbalance is obviously seen in such children, and these are some of the symptoms. Please go through the symptoms like muscle wasting, diarrhea, mental retardedness. Color of the skin and hair changes have to be mentioned for Kwashiorkor, along with moon face. Okay, these symptoms are important. Dermatosis, so stunted growth, this is also very important, and if it is not taken care, then Kwashiorkor in very severe conditions can lead to death of the baby. Marasmus is, as I told, it is a deficiency of both calories as well as proteins. So it means neglected child. So when due to this negligence of child is when due to poverty or ignorance of the nutrition education, when they are ignorant of these issues, the child may suffer from marasmus. And the symptoms again include stunted growth, muscle wasting. But one of the distinguishing thing is you don't have edema here, but in Kwashiorkor you have edema. If I have mentioned it, yeah, edema should be there. Yeah, 8th point, you can see it causes edema. So edema, moon face, then this color of hair and skin changes due to lack of melanin pigment. These are very important points. Enlarged abdomen and dermatosis. Please remember at least these points for Kwashiorkor. In case of marasmus, there is no dermatitis and edema. Please remember that. And of course there is anemia, stunted growth and muscle wasting. Only thing is edema and dermatitis is not seen. So causes of PCM or protein calorie malnutrition is, as I told you, poverty, lack of knowledge about the diet, failure of crops or unhygienic conditions also cause it. Treatment, I have listed a few, wherein hospitalization should be provided to such patients. Then rehabilitation center has to be provided to take to teach the mother about child care, good hygienic environment, medicines for bacterial and other associated secondary diseases have to be treated, and the slow feeding of well cooked food has to be given to the children. So you can see these are some of the things, good sanitation and skimmed milk, sugar, all this has to be provided. You can see, as I told you, there is no edema. Here there is edema or swelling in the body of the baby, and you have a moon face, okay, stunted growth, and here you can see there is no edema, so it is like very thin too. So this is where you can differentiate between Kwashiorkor and marasmus. So I've completed all the topics under proteins. So this next PPT is on, this is just to remind you that PPT number 11 is vitamin and mineral, which we have already covered. Thank you.